I'd be very surprised if our suspect was from Brainerd.
Then we started to get some calls from people really around the United States who were saying, you know, if you haven't seen this movie, you should understand that it's really quite an embarrassment to the city of Brainerd.
How was everything today?
Yeah, real good now.
The way some of the language was talked. And
how you doing?
Words of you betcha and that. Is that us? Do we really do that? I think what it did for me was really kind of wake me up to the fact that, yeah, that's us.
So where are you girls from?
Chaska, LeSueur, but I went to high school in White Bear Lake. Go Bears.
Alabama has their language, Texas has their language, and I think Minnesota has its language, and I think it's a positive thing for Minnesota.
You know, I don't have any hard feelings that he besmirched our reputation.
Any movie that you so worked on to make it fit the screen and all that, that I don't think anything is really true.
If you say you're making a true story, tell the truth.
Okay, I used to sneak my camera into concerts and take photos, and these are a couple of them. Prince on the Purple Rain tour, and then David Bowie. When I saw him, I drove to Chicago and saw him at a nightclub because he's my favorite singer.
I became aware of Herschell Gordon Lewis through reading John Waters' book Shock Value, which I read about 6 or 7 years after seeing Pink Flamingos. His breakthrough feature, and now 25 years old, and soon due for a reissue. So let's see what they have to say.
Well, we'll start with the first one, Blood Feast.
2000 Maniacs.
Color Me Blood Red.
The Gore Gore Girls.
The Gruesome Twosome.
Just for the hell of it.
Great heavens. She-Devils on Wheels.
God, I wish
Gotcha.
I would have studied. No, wait a minute. Jimmy Boy Wonder.
Oh, that's not a gore film.
Oh, I thought you said a Herschell Gordon Lewis film. Well, I'd never heard of Herschell Gordon Lewis. I went to the drive-in almost every night of my life because it was the only place where we could drink, have sex, do everything that you couldn't do with your parents, right? So we went to see this movie called Blood Feast, and I was shocked by it. I had never seen this before. In the Timonium Drive-In where I saw it, everyone leaned on the horn and all the gore scenes. So it was a symphony of car honking. And every girl jumped in the guy's lap because they were so horrified. That was the key, to, I think, to the success of it, part of it. And they had a vomit bag when you went in, which really deeply impressed me. But I probably never got over it.
Watch, as Divine proves that not only is she the filthiest person in the world, she is also the filthiest actress in the world. What you are about to see is a real thing.
I knew John Waters films because at one time I owned a bunch of theaters in Chicago. And we played at a midnight show a movie called Pink Flamingos. Looked at this movie and said, well, I thought I had gone over the edge. But here is somebody from the planet Mars. So the name was well known to me.
Right. Well, good. I'm very proud to hear you say that. Did the first gore movies show in sexploitation theaters? You had to create, because there wasn't a theater for this.
There wasn't, no.
Yeah.
In fact,
unless it was the kind of lowest brow, kind of third-run feature kind of place? Or, I mean, where did it play first?
It depended on the theater. In a town like Detroit, to my astonishment, we were in a 2,800-seat theater. But these were made for drive-ins.
Right.
And when we would occasionally play in a sex house...
Did it work?
It didn't work. The audience didn't like it. That's not why they came to the movie.
No, they didn't, yeah. Unless they're really sicko.
Now take it easy, will you? They just followed the ceremony, like girls said.
Oh, the barrel roll sequence in 2000 Maniacs. I had seen somewhere some ancient Egyptian torture machine in which somebody stands inside a mummy's thing and some spikes come and go through the body. And I was mentioning that when we were planning this movie, and my son Bob, who was only about 8 years old at the time, said, well, it's better if there's some action. I said, like what? He says, well, put it in a barrel, and I you got it!
We didn't even
convinced that by making Blood Feast and 2000 Maniacs and Color Me Blood Red and The Gruesome Twosome and The Gore Girls, that was part of the origin of the rating system, because prior to that, each major metropolitan area had its own censor board.
We had a terrible one here, as you know, in Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
They hassled the hell out of you,
They
I'm
sure did.
Yeah.
Maryland was brutal, absolutely brutal. But these all operated as independent fiefdoms, and it was impossible to satisfy them all. One thing the rating system did was at least give us an umbrella over the individual circumstances. But we got hassled. Now, Blood Feast didn't, because there was nothing about gore. No one ever made a gore film before.
Same way with Eating Shit and Pink Flamingos. There was no laws against it yet. People could look it up and say, well, how do we stop this? It's not written down. Who would want to do this? Why? Stop it. No. But did you have in Blood Feast, did it say adults only?
Oh, we had a terrific campaign. We had a fellow looking dead on the trailer, The Coming Atrocity. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to see one of the most unusual motion pictures ever made.
This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset.
We had, for the original trailer for Pink Flamingos, there was no footage of the movie in it. It just showed shocked hippies coming out of the theater going, I don't know, I don't know. You know? And it was a very effective thing because we didn't really want to show any of it at the time. We wanted you to just hear about it and hear about it. And it was all through word of mouth then. Midnight movies.
Oh, our movies were always word of mouth was our key.
The only thing you can't buy.
And we didn't want children in there. Absolutely not. Because that's the way you get heat.
Yeah. That's what happened. Pink Flamingos got busted last year in Florida in a video shop because a family goes in and said, we loved Hairspray, let's get another John Waters movie. They rent Pink Flamingos, they go home, they say, I got halfway through it. I know what that is, the singing sphincter muscle. But why don't they just turn it off? I mean, that's what I did when Forrest Gump started running. But no, they call the police. They settled. We didn't get convicted, but the store had to build a special shelf for these weird films so children couldn't.
The private John Waters collection. I like that.
Well, we're both a lot on the same shelves in video shops, I've noticed.
Oh, we are?
Oh, and they have a special corner for us. But did you ever co-direct with anybody?
With every actor I ever had.
Oh.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll run the camera, you run the sound.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then right. Then we'll just yell out orders.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, I could imagine what would be a good assignment was me to remake Blood Feast and Herschell to remake Pink Flamingos. Only have Pink Flamingos a gore movie and have Blood Feast be a midnight movie and see what we could come up with.
We have a lot of bloody dung there, I think. It is about a sense of humor.
That's what it's about.
I really think a lot of movie makers today take themselves too seriously.
We never took ourselves.
Never.
We worked hard. We were serious about our careers, but we didn't say what we're doing is we're changing the world.
It was camp.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
How many feature filmmakers today have a good time making movies? It's a deadly business.
And I agree with what he said earlier. I heard him say about how don't just make a personal film. They always ask me, what should my first film be about? I say, have sex and violence in it, and don't make it about your grandmother unless she's a biker. No one's interested in about your little personal story, unless it's really bizarre or outrageous. You got to have sex and violence in your first movie, I think.
Hey, what's going on? You hear that?
Well, in Reservoir Dogs, with Quentin Tarantino, in my opinion, that ear scene is our natural descendant. It's still possible to shock people. I think this concept, when we squeezed the eyeball in the Gore Girls, people couldn't watch it. And I think even today, there are certain body parts that become inviolable. You can shock people. The question is it box office?
Will they be shocked and like being shocked?
Yeah.
That's the difference. I tried to always make people laugh at being shocked. It's easy to shock, but it's not witty and it's not funny and it won't work. You popped an eyeball. I stamped on one with a high heel. That was the difference. You had gore. I had drag gore.
How do you get a high heel?
It's a thin line. You have to just aim better.
I would think it would slide off the side.
No, well, this girl Sue had a good aim, you know, and she was experienced with wearing spring-a-later high heels, as were most of the women in my films, and yours.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, high heels are mandatory.
That's what I mean. High heels are very much important in both of our films.
Yeah, if you're going to have eyeballs.
Yes.
I promise you we won't be squeezing any eyeballs. But here's a look at some scenes from future episodes. First, we spent a day with Richard Linklater and Eric Bogosian at the New York Film Festival. The world premiere of Suburbia, New York Film Festival, Lincoln Center, Alice Tully Hall. Black tie?
But, well, black for sure. I've never seen her wear anything except black.
Matching flannel shirts tied around our waist. I think that's going to be the look for tonight. That's our look.
Are you going to see? Do you know about Suburbia? You already kind of Suburbia with the big E. Big U. Is that a bad sign?
I want to just sit there tonight and just lay back and just let it wash over me. Great. Actually, I wish I had one of those, you know, those inhalers they have in Blue Velvet.
Then I spent a night with Kevin Smith at the Quick Stop convenience store, scene of Clerks. You do love comics. You collected comics. You actually had to sell some comics from the collection
to make Clerks.
So did you get them back?
After the movie got picked up at Sundance, yeah, I was able to buy my comic book collection back. Because the answer these questions are so, you know, we're still talking about Clerks, John. When can we stop talking about Clerks?
You can't get away.
Man?
You can't get away.
Just pulls me back in. But yeah, I sold comic books and then bought them back afterwards. I've always been a big comic fan.
And finally, we spent a weekend with some enterprising young filmmakers.
I found a contest from Hostess Twinkies, and I entered and won, and the prize was $10,000 to make an animated short film for them. And so I used as little money as possible on their film, and I was able to use the rest of the Twinkie money to finish my first feature film.
I was on my way to my sound mix, and I was in desperate need for money, and I was just driving through Springfield, and next thing I knew, a woman goes through a stop sign, and there was my opportunity. I made a decision whether I should hit the brakes or not, and I decided not to, and hit her. No one was hurt. I ended up with a nice check, and went to my mix. And this actually happened 3 more times.